So this is get bent, which is a sort of take on a circuit bent buffer, right? So it's meant to be glitchy and lo-fi and lots of aliasing and weird stuff going on. And I'm going to try and move through it pretty quickly. So basically, you have two sort of timing devices. One is a tap tempo, which sets the baseline tempo, and I'm going to set some stuff back to kind of default, I guess, is what I'd call it. Before I go too much further, you've got a tap tempo, which sets the sort of baseline tempo, and then you've got a detection circuit. You can use two different detection modes. I was using the envelope follower based mode, and we also have a onset detector based mode. I'll just jump back between the two real quickly. So the onset detector mode can do a little bit better job, I'd say, catching transients because the envelope follower needs time to generate sort of an envelope and pass a threshold, whereas the threshold for the onset detector is kind of built in. But you switch between the two detection modes here, and you have a shared threshold for both that controls both. Green means we're in the envelope follower mode, and there are a couple of additional controls for that. One is a hysteresis threshold. So basically, this is the threshold that this is the amount that the signal has to drop below the threshold for the sort of trigger to turn off. It helps keep things a little bit smoother. If you go really extreme with it, it'll take a very low signal to drop back below the threshold. And this is important because the way that the two thresholds or the two detection methods function is different. When it's in onset detector mode, it won't stop a glitch until there has been a subsequent trigger that it selects below the chance control. So it'll keep going and going and going until there's another threshold passed, and when that threshold is passed, sorry, when that threshold is passed, it needs to fall below this chance control. So we have a probability for a glitch to occur. You can go all the way up to 100%, which is kind of fun. So it can take a little bit of dialing in this threshold to get things where you want them. So we have this hysteresis control, then we have this release. So this is sort of like you can use when it's in envelope follower mode, you can sort of use it as kind of like a tail for a sound. So if I turn this all the way down, it'll only glitch as long as it's above the threshold. Very brief. But then I can turn this release up. And get sort of a longer following glitch. And then finally, there's this holdover control, which will cause the envelope follower mode to behave in the same way as the onset detector mode. It'll hold a glitch until a subsequent threshold is passed. So you can either have it as sort of this momentary effect or as this sustained effect. That's probably the easiest way to explain it. We have a chance control, so this will just determine how likely it is that a glitch occurs in our buffer. And then we have this glitch refresh control, which is most apparent when we have the glitch chance set to 100. And basically what it means is how likely are the buffers going to refresh when there's a new trigger. So if we have this all the way up, so we hear the same buffer sort of repeat more than it should because the input of the buffers doesn't refresh when that's set lower. So at 100%, they'll always refresh, and as you turn that lower, sometimes they'll sort of hold on to something for a while. There's a manual mode. Let's turn the... And this can be triggered with this stomp switch as well, the middle stomp switch. And that's latching. If you're using this on Zebu, there's a CV input for this. There's a CV input for clock as well. I didn't go super wild because when it's in the the onset detector mode, it consumes more CPU, and it was getting kind of into that danger zone area. So I didn't want to go too nuts with it with the CV inputs and outputs, which would defeat the purpose of having them if they couldn't run on Zebu. But you can control the clock and also the manual glitch, as I call it, with a gate or trigger. The subsequent gate or trigger will cause it to go low. So, like I said, we can control the base tempo. Right now I had it pretty high, but if we turn that down. So we have, moving on to now that we've got the basic operation down, we've got these controls over the purple controls control the clock divisions of the delay line buffers, and the blue controls or aqua controls or the aliaser, and then finally at the end we have the filter. I'm going to go through those real quick. So we have a low multiplier and a high multiplier. This allows us to set a range for, we can get really fast stuff going. So that just allows us to choose. At the highest, it's 32 times the clock, and at the lowest, it's 1 times the clock. And this sets a range that we can select, or that our glitchy, our freezes are sort of chosen from. So you could have this sit really narrowly or really broadly and get different sounds. You can also just lock it into a fixed multiplier. This will use the high multiplier as the fixed amount. So whatever that's set to, it'll constantly go back to that if you just don't want to deal with this, random element. And then there's a recalculate chance. All of these have a recalculate chance. And what that means is this clock divider is going all the time. So normally the decisions are chosen each time it glitches, each time a threshold is passed. the aliaser and the filter and the clock divider will all choose new divisions. But on occasions where the recalculate chance is turned up, it'll actually have a chance to recalculate in the middle of a glitch based on the output of the clock divider. Let me turn down this control and I'll just demonstrate that. So you get these sort of changes in buffer size in the middle of one of these glitch periods. And we can add some real wild stuff with this control, which is the slew. So the delay lines are not interpolated. And that's so that there aren't these weird digital artifacts and shrill, pitchy things. But if you slew a non-interpolated delay line, you can get some weird pitch artifacts and slowing down and speeding up sort of things. So if we just gonna set the glitch chance all the way up. So a lot of sonic mayhem can break out when you're using the resize slew. You get some aliasing effects and some distortion and all sorts of weird stuff happens when you start slewing that time change for the non-interpolated delay lines. Okay, so that's the delay section. We see a little, and this is just an indicator of what's going on with the clock divider for the delay lines. The aliaser and low pass filter have similar controls. They have a range, a high frequency, and a low frequency. They both have a recalculate chance control. Then they have a couple of differences. There's an aliaser spread, which introduces sort of a stereo effect. So I'm going to just turn on the aliaser. Let's get real grody. You can get very distorted once you get below, 1,000 hertz or so. Things get real mucky, but you might want to play around with that. But the aliaser spread, well, let me start running this and then we'll hear it. So it basically introduces different aliaser frequencies in the left and right channel for a more stereo effect. And I thought of ways to introduce stereo-ness into this patch. It runs in stereo, input stereo, output stereo. At no point is it summed to mono, which happens in some of my stereo patches. This one, it's stereo throughout. And I tried the filter frequency and it just didn't do a lot for me to have those sort of do different things. And if you do that with the delay lines, in your 2 ears, it just sounds like chaos, and not like a good chaos. This is a patch about, I think, good chaos, but there is bad chaos as well. So that's the spread amount. And then with the filter, we have a resonance control. And it has a slew as well. So we can control how quickly it changes between different filter settings. that's the patch. You add all of those things together and you get weird circuit bent stuff. So yeah, I think it's fun. I hope you do too. If you like it on Patch Store, or if you check it out and you like it, please take a moment to go back and like it on Patch Storage. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate it as a way to show the community what patches you think are pretty neat. Again, I hope this one falls into that category, but I wanted to show it with a sort of musical sample, or melodic sample, because I mean it works great with drums too. Let me just load up some drums here. Oops. And this is really a case where I think this envelope follower release thing comes into really good play. So that's not a very good drum pattern, but you can sort of see the effect on drums. And I think if you put a more traditional 4 on the floor beat through it, you get good results. I have done that. I just wasn't prepared. Wasn't prepared to show that off. But yeah, drums. If you go on the Discord server, I have an example using some of Hank Green's voice. So vocals works really well with. I think it works well with everything if you want this sort of glitchy bent buffer effect. So I hope you enjoy it. Have a good day. Happy holidays if you're watching this anytime near when it was released. And if you're not, then happy whatever time of year it is for you then. Have a good day.